Which painting do you think looks better? This one, or do you think it's this one? It's the second, isn't it? And do you know the reason why? It's because of the tonal differences, the differences between the lights and the darks. Let me explain in more detail. We're going to talk about tonal value as one of the cornerstones, if you like, of composition. Tonal value is the lights and the darks. In photography, it's called contrast. So when you take a photograph and it looks a bit wishy-washy, good way to describe it, you can boost the contrast and then the image just has life. Now, I just ask you to, today, when you're out and about, or for the next week, pay special attention to the tonal values that you see. Tonal value here, dark to light. And you'll see the juxtaposition of values everywhere. It's really obvious in life. Unless it's a foggy day where the tonal values are very close together, you'll see remarkable differences. And what I've found is that not everybody, but quite a lot of people, myself included sometimes, tend to verge towards the mid-tones in their paintings. And those are where the tonal values are very similar and you don't get the punchiness. So what we're aiming to do is to get punchiness into your work so that that is another way of leading your eye around a piece of work. So I would recommend doing this exercise just have this near you when you're painting to remind you about tonal values. And we'll be talking about tonal values in colour later. That all starts getting a bit eye-wateringly complicated, but you'll get used to it. But let's just start by making one of these, just for your reference, because it's really useful. And you also get a feel for how much colour you need to make each of these greys. So we're going to start off with painting a line of just pure black. It's quite rough, not worrying about it too much. And then gradually adding a little bit of white to that black. That's quite a big jump in tonal value. You can add a little bit more black. And then you get less of a change. So, more white. Paint it on. A little bit more white. And you can feel your way around the paint and you can see how the values are getting lighter. I'm not mixing mine terribly well. Make sure you mix yours better than I'm mixing mine. A little bit more white. Now, whilst we're getting into from the darks to the lights, we're needing to add more white. There we go. We're trying to almost get rid of the black now. And when you paint, black goes a very long way, so you never need much. And we'll get onto the story of using black paint in your painting in another module. But just briefly, I've had plenty of people coming to workshops saying, oh, can't use black, you shouldn't use black. Received wisdom, a load of tosh. I think if Matisse could use black and various other pretty important artists in our history, then you can. But there are some great uses for black, so we'll get to that in another module. Anyway, we're nearly at pure white now, and you can see how the difference in contrast, the difference in values from dark to light. And around about here are mid values, and those are the ones which are useful, but they're only useful if you can contrast them with the dark tones and the light tones. So have a go at painting that. Once it's done, keep it as a reference because it is useful to have until you get really used to reading tonal values in your work. So to demonstrate this, I've dug out a painting that I did over 10 years ago. It's in watercolour, but this is a photograph of it, and I think it really demonstrates how the tonal values are very weak. I was quite pleased with it at the time, but I remember my tutor saying to me, you know, you need to push some darks into that painting. This is it desaturated, a great way of checking the lights and darks. And as you can see, it's a bit wishy-washy. But with the magic of technology, I can actually increase the tonal values so that we've got a big difference between lights and darks. And it just looks so much better. And again, checking it in black and white, you can see more darks, more lights, and of course we've got the midtones too. It's a great way of checking your work.